Hey guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another What Sold From Last Week video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over all of my sales that happened on eBay and Poshmark last week. We will look at a really quick spreadsheet of what is going on with my sales, how much I made, and a quick breakdown of some of the fees. Plus, later we will do a deep dive into some of those individual items, talk about why they sold and for how much they did. I don't have much to say on this one, so let's jump right into the sales. All right, so we are talking about the sales that happened between October 20th through the 26th. In total, I sold 266 items for a gross item sales of $8,481.90. My average sale price was quite lower. As I've mentioned before, my sales have been kind of rocky on Poshmark since they switched back to their 20% fees. And because of that, I'm having a lot less higher price sales, like full price sales. So my average sale price is still remaining on the lower 30s. I really want to get that up. Average sale price was around $32, not bad. On eBay, I sold 154 items. On Poshmark, I sold 112. My average sale price on eBay, this is again why I always say, if you can cross post, I definitely think it's worth it not to have all of your eggs in one basket. I personally use List Perfectly to cross post. There is a link in the Linktree in the description of all of my videos if you want a discount off your first month to try it out. On eBay, $39 average sale price. That is at the higher end of what I'm looking for on average sale price. On Poshmark, as usual, it was much lower, around 22. Like I said, I've just noticed just a big shift in my Poshmark sales. I might not look at it on these numbers here on the screen, but it seems like every day I'm having fewer and fewer Poshmark sales, which has me slightly nervous, but we're going to keep pushing forward. And like I said, whenever one platform is slow, the other one usually picks up, and that goes both ways. So very happy that eBay is picking up the slack here to keep my numbers where they usually are. Let's dive into some of these individual sales. I've got a lot of bolos to show you. I also have quite a few bread and butter. Towards the middle of this video in the eBay stuff, I have a lot of quick plus size bread and butter stuff that I'm going to show you, brands that I pick up all the time that sells well, and you can come across them fairly often, so stay tuned for that. But we're going to start with some of the higher price ones. This is the brand Arc'teryx. I like to mention this one. I think most people know about it, but just in case you didn't, if you're a newer reseller, this is a fantastic brand, and just about anything has a 100% sell-through rate, usually over it. Pretty simple tag. This is a women's Arc'teryx. Here's their logo. Goose down jacket. Now, I picked this up with patched holes in the front and the back, so with significant flaws. This brand has such a great following that even with flaws, I do think it's worth picking up. And in general, if you come across an item that has a really high sell-through rate and also an average sale price, but it's got a couple flaws, I would still consider potentially picking it up and just selling it at a much lower price. This is what I did with this one, and I'm still able to make a ton of money off of flawed items, where I think a lot of resellers would have probably put this back because of the patched areas. I listed this one for $125. I've sold ones like this without flaws for closer to $200. This one sold for my full asking price of $125. It actually sold the next day after being listed. Next up, you might recognize this one from a recent thrift haul. This one also sold fast. This is a vintage Woolrich women's Aztec wool coat. Now, one thing I want to say about this is Woolrich in general it's like no longer a bolo brand in most things. There aren't a lot of things you can pick up in this brand that are still good. It used to be that you could pick up anything, but the things that I do look for are their outerwear, their sweaters, so like thicker wool sweaters. Generally, their vintage stuff is what people are looking for. Anything with Southwest, Aztec print, or cottagecore prints. Those are the things that you want to be on the lookout for, and they can go for tons of money, even in the women's department. So this was a vintage women's Aztec wool coat. I listed this for $100 or best offer. Surprisingly, it sold within just a few days for full asking price. So they didn't even send an offer. They just wanted the item. So I'm really happy with that sale. I paid $7.99 at a thrift store. It was something that everyone had passed on. And it's just really important to really educate yourself and learn those small niches within brands that everyone else is passing on so that you can make tons of money. Next up, this is another outerwear piece, also with some flaws. North Face is also a brand that a lot of people pass on these days, but if you find it in outerwear, specifically their down stuff, I would probably pick it up during this time of the year. It can go for a lot of money, even with small flaws. And generally, I would tell you if there's holes on a goose down item, you should probably just leave it. But if it's something like this that has a high sell-through rate and a high ASP, you can still get it, price it slightly lower, and still make quite a bit of money. So this one I listed for $100. It sold on an offer to watcher for $85. And this one took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this one was a super quick flip. I actually just found this at the thrift store and I almost passed by it because I thought it was a Halloween costume. It was in the go back area near the fitting rooms at this particular thrift store. And I kind of looked over at it because obviously it's crazy, wacky, multicolor, multi-prints. And I looked over at it and I couldn't see the entire thing. And I was like, oh, that's probably like some kind of a Halloween costume. And then I went back and grabbed it, and it was actually a really amazing bolo. This is the brand called Cantha Bay, and their overalls or jumpsuits, very popular. My first time finding one. This one I almost still left behind even after checking comps because there actually was a couple areas with flaws. I don't want to make that the theme of this video, but flawed items, again, if it's a high sell-through rate, and talking like 100% sell-through rate, plus the ASP is very, very high, close to $100 or higher, I will risk it on a slightly flawed item. This one actually had quite a few issues. There was also a patched area on it, but sell-through rate was so good. So keep your eye out for Cantha Bay, and just in general, if you see mixed patchwork, mixed media, you definitely want to keep your eye out for it. So because this had a few marks, I listed a little bit lower. The other ones were selling for around $125 pre-owned. Crazy, wacky prints. That's what sells. If something catches your eye, go look it up. I listed this one with flaws for $100. It sold on an offer that I received very quickly for $85. I thought, $85, it was $15 less than what I was asking for a flawed item. I was like, yes, I'm absolutely going to take that within just days of listing it. Actually only took 2 days to sell, and I paid $5.49 at a thrift store. Next up, I just wanted to show this as a category. This is just a category in general that we've been selling a lot of. They are dressier, longer length coats, whether it is modern, vintage. This one is a vintage Marvin Richards. This used to be an amazing bolo to find. Not so much anymore. It really depends on what it is, but Marvin Richards is a vintage brand that used to make some really high quality coats. This one is a longer length ivory long length pea coat, and this one I listed for $65, and it sold for our full asking price within just 1 day of getting listed. This very neutral kind of staple piece, whether it is a pea coat, a trench coat, whatever it may be, definitely worth keeping your eye out for. And just about any brand, it doesn't have to be this brand, but they can carry a lot of value. People are looking for these staple pieces right now. Next up, this is Burberry, and I just wanted to show you this because a lot of people pass on the accessories area of the thrift store simply because it's a small section. Not a lot of people want to go through all the hats, the ties, the belts, but those can have some really profitable things in them. So this is an example of one of those. This is a Burberry hat, and it has the plaid on it, which I think increases a lot of value. Just to show you some things that you might be passing up in the accessory section. This is called a newsboy hat. We listed it for $65, and it did sell for our full asking price within a couple of weeks after being listed. Next up, this is one of my favorite brands to pick up. It is Zarina. They tend to make more summery pieces. I doubt I'll find a whole lot of it coming up. We actually found this back in September before we move into cold weather where people aren't buying stuff like this anymore. In general, this is a brand that has a really excellent following. They make some high quality pieces. Plus, they're fairly easy to spot because they usually have some really nice prints to them. So this is called the Sorrento Tegan Silk Blend Midi Skirt in a size large. I listed this for $45. It sold for a full asking price. Like I said, this one did take a couple of months to sell. This is a brand I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure if this brand as a whole performs extremely well. This must have come from wholesale. This is New Flora, and I wanted to show you this one as well as the next one just because the silhouette of it is something people are still definitely looking for. This is a very milkmaid vibe type of dress. So you got the smocking detail up top, you've got tiered details, you've got puff sleeves. Very feminine. We could have used the keyword milkmaid in this, and I think it would have done really well. But just the silhouette of a dress in general, no matter what the brand is, I would definitely be looking up. Make sure to include those keywords in your search as well. I listed this one for $50. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. This one is by Anthropologie. You guys know I love picking up Anthropologie in plus sizes. It always performs well for me. So this was a plus size, it was called the Carissa Smocked Waist Maxi Dress in a size 1X. I'm absolutely going to pick that up. It was actually missing its liner, but I still wanted to get it because of the plus size. Listed this one for $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. Next up, you're going to see a few of these in this video. I think I've shown some pretty much every video I've done, whether it is women's tank tops, women's dresses, men's graphic t-shirts or graphic hoodies. The Y2K aesthetic, I feel like I've really got down at this point, probably because I live through that area. I am selling a ton of it and come across at least one of these Y2K pieces per thrift store, usually like 5 or 6. This one actually came from wholesale, but it is by the brand Rosamond, which is a good label to look for in these pieces. But just the silhouette of this top in general, I would say if you want to be on the safe side, make sure to pick up a baby doll Y2K top, which this one is not. I've also noticed that the lace trim ones that are also Y2K have been performing well for me. You're going to see several examples of that here in just a second. But this is a brand in particular that seems to be performing well. Listed this one for $45 and it sold within a bundle. So it sold for about $40 pre-owned. Great sale. This one did take a couple of months to sell. Next up, here's another Y2K piece. This is actually men's. This is by the brand Averex, which honestly does not matter to me. Just the fact that it's vintage Y2K, plus it's got an all over graphic. This just screams Y2K to me. It would have been even better if there was a graphic on the back. It had a little bit of washwear as well. I listed this one for $40 and it did sell for our full asking price within just 2 days of getting listed. If you guys see anything like this, any men's Y2K thick hoodies, consider brand, consider the graphic on it, but in general, this aesthetic I am selling just constantly. And depending on the brand you have, it can actually go for over $100, sometimes even $200 if it is one of the more desirable Y2K brands. All right, here's another category I've been picking up a lot, longer length skirts, especially when they have a patchwork look to them. This one definitely does. This one is Ralph Lauren, and I have great luck. I always have for years now. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that for years I have been picking up long length Ralph Lauren skirts. So this one's a midi skirt. It is tiered. It has that patchwork look to it. I listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price and it only took 3 days to sell. Next up, you definitely want to keep your eye out for men's cardigans. Just in general, no matter the brand, keep your eye out for them and then make sure to do your comp with the brand. J. Crew is absolutely a brand I would look for in men's cardigans. Very good sell-through rate. This one I listed for $45. So I think this one, it either sold for full asking price or it sold for $40. It looks like about a month and a half on this one. Great price on a pre-owned men's cardigan. Next up, this is Blazer, and this is a brand that in larger sizes performs extremely well in blazers. So Talbots, this is a size 18. This is like an artsy kind of herringbone look to it. Whether it's old, whether it's new, as long as it's in good condition, the Talbots larger size blazers perform very well for me. I listed this one for $35. It sold for our full asking price, and it took about a month to sell. This is one of my favorite shoe brands to find. It is Vionic. They are very expensive. They're known for being more of a comfort line, but lately they have been making more fashionable pieces. These are like Mary Jane point toe ballet flats. I listed this for $40. It did have quite a bit of wear to it. It did sell for our full asking price, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. Keep your eye out for Vionic. Next up, cashmere in general is performing well. This brand, Neiman Marcus in particular, is one that I look for every year in cashmere because it does consistently perform well for me. So this is Neiman Marcus, the cashmere collection in a longer length. I don't know exactly what this tan is called. Some people call it camel, oatmeal maybe, but shades of tan like this in general, again, going with that capsule like staple pieces that you look for every year in the neutral colors, this definitely fits that bill, and they go for a little bit more because of the color. So this one also went for a little bit more because it was longer length. I listed this one for $40. It sold for our full asking price, and it actually sold the exact same day that we listed it. This is another Y2K tank top. This is the limited, and whenever it has all or most of the driving factors of a hot ticket bolo piece for the category, I usually drive the price up a little bit. You can see I priced this one at $35, and it did sell for our full asking price. It only took 2 weeks to sell. The limited is definitely one of my favorite Y2K brands to sell. Here is another baby doll top. This is by Abercrombie and Fitch. I have heard about what's going on with Abercrombie and Fitch, and this was picked up before that. It just now got listed, and it sold very quickly. So a lot of you are asking me, do I think that Abercrombie sales are going to tank? I am weary of it. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it, but so far the Y2K pieces are still performing well. You got to remember, by picking up these pieces pre-owned, you are not giving money to the company. They've already been bought. You're only keeping these items out of the landfill, but definitely want to keep an eye on that sell-through rate as things are happening in the news. But this one sold extremely quickly. This one went active on October 22nd, and it sold October 26th. It sold for my full asking price of $35. All right, this is the brand Lauren Ralph Lauren. I have previously stuck to plus sizes in this brand in the women's department. However, I have started branching out into size large and extra large when there are some like factor stacking involved. This one screamed very cottagecore country to me, very trendy piece, and I'm glad I did because it sold quickly at my full asking price of $30. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. So size large and extra large, like I said, I will be experimenting with and making sure to factor stack, and I will follow up with you guys on that. This was a men's pickup. This is Polo by Ralph Lauren. Every year I sell these crew neck sweatshirts in the men's department really quickly. If you check comps, they're actually not 100%, but like I said, they sell really well for me. I got this one specifically because it was like a teal kind of color, a unique color. I listed this one for $30. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took 3 days to sell. Next up, this is a brand that also, if you check the comps right now, is not great, but this brand blew up in summer. I don't know why, but it did have a 100% sell-through rate in the summer. It was actually over 100% sell-through rate in their dresses. So every time I come across it now, I am still getting it, and I'm just keeping an eye on it. The sell-through rate does not look good, but every time I pick it up, it flips quickly in the dresses only. So I'm still picking it up. If that changes, I will let you know, but it is working out for me. Listed this one for $35. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $30. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. Here's another vintage Y2K Abercrombie piece that sold. I listed this one for $30. There was a small hole near the bottom. That's probably why it took so long to sell. Regardless, it ended up selling for $30. It just took several months to sell. Similarly to Lauren Ralph, I am also branching out on Eileen Fisher. This one was a silk top. It had an interesting print to it, and it was a size extra large. Listed this one for $30. It sold for our full asking price. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. Next up, I'm going to blast through some of the plus size tops that I've been selling. You guys know this is a category that we've just been thriving in, and I feel like I've got it really figured out. I by no means am picking up every single plus size top. I probably leave like 75% of it behind, but I have definitely learned the brands that do well, the factors in those brands that do well, and the sizes. Here's some examples of those. This is a Susan Graver size 2X liquid knit top. Sold this one for my full asking price of $25. This one took a couple of weeks to sell. This next one is Torrid. I'm extremely picky with this brand these days. I got this one, where'd it go? Because it was a size 2 and it was new with tags, a little bit more of a substantial piece with it being floral and long sleeve. Listed this on the higher end because it was new with tags for $30. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $25. This one took a couple of months to sell. Here is Catherine's. This one is a size 4. Got this one because of the Christmas trees on it and the mesh detail at the bottom. Plus it was a 4X, so a larger size. Listed this one for $30. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $25. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. Here is another Catherine's. This one's a 3X. You can see it's got a couple of factor stacking here as well. Plus this one was actually new with tags. Listed this one on the higher end because it was new with tags at $30. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $25, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. Talbots. This one is a Talbot plus size 3X. This one is sleeveless. However, it was silk, it was cowl neck, and it had a print to it. Listed this for $30. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $25. This one took a couple of months to sell. Lauren Ralph Lauren's probably one of my top favorite high sell-through rate, high ASP plus size tops brands to sell right now. This one's a pretty plain piece. I normally would not pick up a plain piece like this in other brands, but Lauren Ralph Lauren is a brand I would pick up pretty much anything plus size in the tops. Not in pants, not in anything else, just the tops. So this is a size 3X, pretty plain long sleeve t-shirt. I listed this for $30, even though it was a plain piece. It sold in a bundle for about 10% off, so about $26. This one took a couple of months to sell. Here is a brand that I do not go searching for. However, this is a factor stacking piece. This is a size 2X, that 100% linen top. I think I showed this in a haul from the bins. Yep, the bins. Kind of an tie-dye ombre look to it. Listed this for $30. It sold for my full asking price, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. Last plus size one before we dive into some of the full price Poshmark sales. This is also a great brand to look for in plus sizes, soft surroundings, specifically again in plus sizes. The other stuff in this brand, unless it's a very special piece, is not performing as well for me as it used to, so I'm trying to stick to plus sizes. This one is a tunic top. It had some embroidery. I listed this for $30. It sold for my full asking price, and it actually only took about 5 days to sell. Diving into some of the Poshmark sales, I am trying to learn a little bit more about military or military inspired items since watching some other creators really dive into the niche like Big Yumbo. That guy's really got it figured out, but I do not. It's always something I've wanted to deep dive into because I come across a lot of it and quite frankly have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to it. I have sold them before, but I think I've just gotten lucky. Like I listed, there happens to be a brand on the ones that I get, but some of them don't have a brand. Some of them look more like this and have numbers. Luckily, this one did have a brand, 10-year Industries. This was a camo jacket. I sold this one quickly on an offer for $76. But again, this is a category I am going to try to start learning. I have learned a little bit about the pants and some of the numbers on the pants, but if you guys know anything about that, drop it in the comments down below. I am still learning. I do think it's worth investing your time into deep diving. Next up, Zara. Zara is a brand I definitely do not get a lot of anymore, but sometimes certain pieces will stick out to me, and so I will look them up. This would be one of those pieces. You can tell from the all over embroidery. It's just kind of a standout piece. Listed this one close to $40, I think. It sold on an offer for $34. This is one of my favorite bread and butters to pick up. This brand actually retails for a ton. Their t-shirts and tops like this don't go for very much, but their dresses, their pants, stuff like that can go for a ton. This is a James purse button-up top. It sold for $25. It's just great bread and butter. This is more of a style-based pickup. This is the brand Hell Bunny for Hot Topic. I actually like selling this brand quite a bit. This one was new with tags. It was just kind of like a goth style kawaii. I think this one probably sold quickly because it was around Halloween. And this one ended up selling for our full asking price of $35. Hot Topic dresses in general, if they've got a specific theme to them, can perform well. Next up, this was a bins pickup. I actually found 2 Prairie Underground pieces in a picked over bin. So if you're at the bins, make sure you're looking at everything because people do pass on stuff. Prairie Underground used to be an amazing bolo with a super high sell-through rate. The sell-through rate is not 100% anymore, but the ones that do sell for a lot. I decided to get it and price a little bit lower. I had this priced around $50 and sold on an offer to watcher for $42. It is a cowl neck tunic. Here is another plus size Lauren Ralph Lauren piece. I do not typically get anything but tops in most of these plus size brands that I get. However, I would get them in Lauren Ralph Lauren. Their sweaters in plus sizes do perform pretty well for me. This one is a really gorgeous contrast of black and pink waterfall cardigan, size 1X. I think I listed this for $50 and accepted an offer of $40, and that is pre-owned. That is an amazing price for a pre-owned sweater. So again, the Lauren Ralph Lauren plus size pieces, definitely one of my top selling brands as far as sell-through rate and ASP goes in plus sizes. This was another bins pickup. I showed this in a recent haul. This is a firearms brand called Novesk. The sell-through rate is actually really great on eBay. They don't sell for a lot, but they did have a good sell-through rate. I got this at the bins, listed it for $25, got an offer of $20, which I went ahead and accepted, and I think it sold within like a couple of days of being listed. This is more bread and butter pricing. I've mentioned before that anything Reformation, even if it is a like smaller, not substantial piece like this, always flips super fast for me and for at least $25. This is just a little cropped tank top and it sold for $25. I would keep an eye on comps and the pieces that you have, but for me, Reformation, no matter what it is, I am picking it up. All right, guys, so that's it for what sold last week. Hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you are not already, consider subscribing down below and hitting the notification bell. Make sure to hit all if you want to be notified every single time I post a new what sold video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.